Now, the outlaw cowboys, they were buried in the Boot Hill Cemetery. The cemetery was called Boot Hill after the Boot Hill Cemetery in Dodge City. It's also known as the Old Cemetery, or the City Cemetery. The cemetery was founded in 1878 and stopped accepting new burials around 1883-1884, except for a few exceptions, primarily outlaws. It fell into disrepair until the 1940s when the city began to restore and preserve it. Some of the Boot Hill graves, though, are falsely marked. A few examples would be Lester Moore, with the famous epitaph, "Here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a 44, no less, no more." There was never anybody named Lester Moore who died in the Arizona Territory. John Heath. John Heath was arrested, convicted, and lynched by an angry mob, but he was not buried in Boot Hill. His body was returned to his wife in Terrell, Texas, and was buried there in Oakland Cemetery. However, there are more real graves than fake graves at the Tombstone Boot Hill Cemetery. Town Marshal Fred White, the first city marshal of Tombstone, is buried there, as well as outlaw cowboys Tom and Frank McLaury and Billy Clanton, to name a few. Now that I've talked about some of the famous people that have come through Tombstone, and I talked about the incident at the OK Corral, let's talk about some of the buildings. And let's talk about them quickly because the weather is getting cool here and the wind chill factor is pretty bad, and I'm starting to turn into a popsicle. And even so, you can see the town's starting to wake up. We're starting to get people walking through here and checking the place out. But they got jackets on. So let's start with the Crystal Palace. Now the Crystal Palace, it was built in 1879. Originally known as the Golden Eagle Brewery, this establishment was one of the early Tombstone's first and finest saloons. Named after its builder, Benjamin Werfritz, the Werfritz building was expanded by adding a second story to house the offices for such notables as U.S. Deputy Marshal Virgil Earp and Dr. George E. Goodfellow, who was the doctor that would patch people up after a gunfight. It's even known that lawman Bat Masterson worked here for a month or two with Wyatt Earp in February 1881, running the Faro Games, which was a gambling game. In 1882, the Golden Eagle Brewery burnt down in the devastating 1882 town fire, but was soon rebuilt in the same spot with the original blueprints, but renamed as the Crystal Palace Saloon. The Birdcage Theater opened on December 26, 1881. It was owned by Lottie and William Hutchinson. Hutchinson, a variety performer, originally intended to present respectable family shows like he'd seen in San Francisco that were extremely popular by large crowds. After the theater opened, they hosted a ladies' night for the respectable women of Tombstone who could attend for free. But the economics of Tombstone didn't support that idea, so ladies' night was ended. Instead, the Birdcage Theater began offering basic entertainment that appealed to the rough mining crowd. There's so much history here in Tombstone, Arizona, I could go on and still miss talking about something. Like Chieflin Hall, for example, where unlike the Birdcage Theater, the respectable people in town went for entertainment. It opened in June of 1881 and was built for the people of Tombstone by Ed Chieflin's brother, Al. It is the largest standing adobe structure in the southwest of the United States and was built to be used as a theater, recital hall, and a meeting place for Tombstone citizens. Wyatt and Morgan Earp attended a performance there the evening that Morgan was shot by an assassin's bullet. It is still in use today by city government and civic groups. And what about people I haven't mentioned, like Big Nose Kate, who was Doc Holliday's common-law wife, who in a letter to her niece wrote about her stay with Holiday at C.S. Fly's boarding house, which bordered the alley where the gunfight at the OK Corral took place, and she witnessed. You know, stuff like that. They actually have a saloon named after her, behind me here, Big Nose Kate's Saloon. It's actually used to be the Grand Hotel. Originally, it was a Grand Hotel. It burnt down, but that was rebuilt, and now they have Big Nose Kate behind me. But anyway, stuff like that. There's so much here, so much history. I highly recommend anybody, if you come to Arizona, to pop on down to Cochise County and check out Tombstone, Arizona. What a piece of history. There's so much to see here. And they say there's ghosts. Can you believe that? Ghosts. And I hear the Birdcage Theater right up the street here is really full of ghosts and the most haunted place around. I don't know, that's what they say.
So to keep us open, we have to make noise. Let us know you're here. That's why everybody came tonight.
Let's try this one.
Here.
Worth a try.
It is?
But what do I know? I'm just a sheriff of Slouch County, and I'm not even from this area. But I gotta go. I'm really freezing out here. I don't know, must be 30 degrees. I gotta go get my coat, and I think I'm gonna belly up over to the Crystal Palace Saloon and have me a sarsaparilla. I hear they have good sarsaparilla. Well, I'm on. Thank you for joining me. I gotta go.